Married people of Reddit, what's one thing you didn't learn about your spouse until after your wedding day? My wife cannot read an analog watch clock for time. Married 4 years. Been together 7 years total, and somehow that came up only a month ago when I asked for the time off a watch during a power outage. I don't give her a hard time about it, but that was a fun fact to learn. I discovered my wife is a hoarder, and doesn't want to throw anything away. She's gotten better over the years, but it's still an issue. How insane his mother is. He was clear that they had a difficult relationship when he was growing up and that he is really close with his dad because of her behavior. Since we've been married, she's been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, and her health professionals say it's likely she has genetic degenerative neurology Huntington's. My wife is allergic to all artificial sweeteners. During the second night of our honeymoon, we decided to stay in and get some takeout. My beverage of choice at the time was Crystal Light Raspberry Ice, which contains aspartame. While we were eating, she wasn't thinking and she asked for a sip. About 5 minutes later, she became extremely ill and started having issues breathing. After a few minutes, she read the ingredients on my beverage and yelled at me, "I am allergic to aspartame." Me, being the loving new husband I am, yelled back, "Since when? You never told me that." She never bothered to tell me because she grew up in a household with no artificial sweeteners because she was allergic. Not me. But my mom found out decades later my dad was married when he married her. So yeah, my dad's a bigamist. My mom found out my dad was a compulsive liar when his twin sister didn't show up to their wedding. When questioned about it, he said she must have imagined the dozens of stories he had told about his twin sister. He is an only child. That he can't put shit back where it goes, ever, and oh yeah, he shot a guy once. That probably makes you apprehensive to call him out about things, like putting shit back where it goes, for instance. Just how much she really loves Christmas. We lived together before we were married, and it wasn't that bad, but the moment we said I do, it changed. Now, she starts the Christmas train in October. I'm talking the tree, garland and goddamn Michael Bublé. When I asked her about this, she said, "Oh, we're married now, so you have to like this too." Purely joking, but damn. My husband and I dated for 3 years before we got married. After more than a year of marriage, he let slip that he is lactose intolerant. He knew that I absolutely love ice cream and we would frequently get ice cream on our dates, but he never wanted me to know about the lactose intolerance so that I could be happy with my ice cream. We were both on the same page in a newspaper. It was found a couple years after we were married. His addiction to cars. I never knew how much he really enjoyed until after we got married. Also his obsessions with speed and how he wants his cars to go faster and faster. I used to feel that way until I hit 145 miles per hour on a very empty straight Arizona highway and felt the front end of my car start lifting up off the ground as the front end seemed very light on traction. I have never gone very fast after that. I was completely cured of it. Contrary to what my ex-wife said when we were dating, I learned she believed that sex was just for making kids. He dunks his Oreos in water instead of milk. I still don't know why. I thought the person who mixed the peanut butter and jelly together before spreading them on the bread was going to be the worst thing in this thread, but this is 100 times worse. She's a great swimmer. One day, after we'd been married for about 7 years, we joined a gym with a swimming pool. She challenged me to a race. Okay, I thought, I'm a pretty good swimmer. I was surprised when she offered me a half-length head start, and then doubly surprised when, despite my massive head start, she beat me easily. Apparently she used to be a competition swimmer at school. She's basically half dolphin, but she'd never happened to mention it before. He'd never been to a funeral. It didn't come up until we had to attend one and he had questions. My wife can't whistle, and she's never had a sloppy Joe. He absolutely cannot be trusted with desserts in the house. Back when we were engaged, he'd give me time to eat my half of the ice cream or Oreo package or whatever we had on hand. Now, I'm sitting here eating Thin Mints from a stash from under frozen veggies in our outside freezer. My wife hates lime-flavored things. She is fine with lemon though. She makes PB&J sandwiches by mixing the PB&J in a separate bowl before spreading it on the bread. Pure savagery. Of all the responses in this thread, this is the one that made me say what the f. She liked to poop with the door open. Man, my wife is the opposite. I will be sitting down for less time than it takes to get the seat to stop feeling cold, and she'll just walk in and start brushing her teeth like I'm invisible. I'm like, WTF, you used to knock? And she'll speak through frothy-mouthed toothpaste. That was before we were married, then spit out her toothpaste, and leave the door open when she leaves. He likes to eat fish. Somehow in our 6 years of dating, I got it into my head that he didn't like to eat seafood. My parents would cook dinner and invite him, and I'd constantly tell my mom, no, can you make something else? He doesn't eat fish. My husband loves most seafood, with the singular, random exception of coconut shrimp. We joke about that to this day, that I unintentionally kept him from some of his favorite foods without so much as a conversation about it. That's a light-hearted answer. I'm sure there are many more. 11 years in and we are still learning things about one another. I'm happily divorced now, almost 12 years now that I do the math. But after we got married I learned that she viewed her money as her money and my money as our money, which was interesting because before we got married my money was our money and she didn't have money to speak of. Not that I was even making good money, but after we got married she got a well-paying job and suddenly her money was hers and mine wasn't mine. It didn't last long after that. She is a bit of a genius when it comes to finances. No complaints. That she was adopted. In fairness, she didn't know either. She owns Hanson's entire discography. She changed a whole lot after the wedding, from wanting kids to not, from hating her parents and the way they treated other people to siding with them. Her mom was a nurse who constantly talked about patients negatively, and her dad was an entitled business owner who tried to run people off the road constantly. Awful road rage. They both were the type of Christians that give the whole religion a bad name. She ended up remarrying one of my old college buddies shortly after the divorce. Not me, but my mom. She found out that my dad already had a kid when they got married. Not me, but my parents. My mom learned that my dad was into some heavy debt after the wedding, literally like a week after, and she also learned that he was never going to give up his bachelor life for a more stable, family life, even though he had a wife and child. Happy times. This family. She procrastinates cleaning until the task becomes unnecessarily difficult, which means she takes forever to clean, which means she hates cleaning, which makes her procrastinate. She also talks in her sleep, and that can be pretty funny sometimes. If my pants have 2 holes in them, why are 3 parts of me tired? Not me but my mom. She found out my dad was extremely addicted to porn, though worked really hard to overcome it. She's only mentioned it once, but I got the feeling it was super hard for her to decide to stay. What an absolute goofball he was. He was always so serious when we were dating. Now he can't carry on a serious conversation. Definitely some pros and cons there. That he plays video games for 10 to 15 hours a day, even when he married, and has kids, and has a full-time job. With marriage counseling he cut back to 5 hours a day. It's now year 22, back up to about 7 hours a day on weekdays. I never knew marriage was going to be this lonely. She farts. She had always farted around me. No big deal. Usually she kept it to little toots unless she was sick or drunk, then it would be loud like mine. I don't mind its nature, but holy f***, she unleashed an ass trumpet that would put college marching bands to shame. She can be across the house and I can hear her ass. She leaves a few seconds on the microwave. There's only so many times a guy can ask her to press the clear button. It's even the same as the stop button. Just press it twice. I wouldn't be surprised if she tortured animals as child. She's a savage. That I am solely responsible for her dreams. And I don't mean the want to have kids one day kind, have those. I mean the type where she wakes me at 3 a.m. and begins the conversation with you. Wouldn't let me have the window seat because apparently in her dream I wouldn't swap seats with her on the plane. She was mad at me for at least a week. This sort of thing has happened a few times. That my husband's anxiety is as bad as my own. It's actually refreshing because we know exactly how to help each other out when the other one's anxiety gets bad. My wife informed me that she could not have children after we got married. This made me sad. Being able to prove her wrong made me happy. I'm glad it sounds like this story has a happy ending, but it is super up that your wife didn't tell you that till after the wedding. My husband loves telling this story. He is a big meat and potatoes guy. On our honeymoon, I told him that I was becoming vegetarian. It was something I'd been thinking about for a while and couldn't implement well while living with my parents. When we got back from vacation, we fell into a routine where I did all the cooking. Turns out that he is lazier about cooking than he likes eating meat. Also, it turns out I'm a pretty good vegetarian cook. He now eats vegetarian whenever we are at home, and gets meat at restaurants when he goes out with his friends. He's totally happy with it. Truly, it has been 10 years. He's the best. My husband completely undresses from the waist down to go number 2. He says he needs the freedom. That he would make a fantastic father. Sleep apnea machines are really annoying to sleep beside. I didn't know how much he really loved me. It gets better all the time. She's always leaving the lids on everything unscrewed. And guess who is always breaking jars because he always picks everything up using the lid. My husband doesn't like the smell of old books. I grew up loving old libraries and old books. He can't stand them. It was a gradual realization, not a dramatic reveal. Also, and much bigger, is that he has no conflict resolution skills. 20 years of marriage and we've never actually resolved an argument. We just wait until I quit being mad long enough to have lots of sex and we're good until the next argument. The times we've tried to work through things always made it worse. At least we still have great sex. You should both read the book called Nonviolent Communication. It's old but frickin' excellent and will teach you both everything. But he can't read the book. It'll have an old book smell. That she actually wouldn't do anything about her mental health issues. The flare-ups were just far enough apart to think things were getting better. Then no, we had kids not too long after getting married, so there was the element of staying for the kids. Staying for the warped belief she could get better. Nearly 14 years. I've been a full-time single dad for 3 years now. Life is great on the other side of divorce and my kids are thriving and happy. For whatever it's worth. It's not anyone's fault to have mental illness, IMO, but doing something about it is their responsibility. She has so many inherited properties, like worth around $5 mil. My mum's first husband thought married women were basically property and treated women in general like shit after they had married. Glad to see the first husband part there. Unless asked specifically to do something around the house, wife won't do it, with rare exceptions. Like she doesn't get mad when I'll ask her to clean or do dishes or anything. She just doesn't think about it. That he lives and breathes sports. I knew he liked sports when we were dating, but I didn't realize that's all he liked. I didn't know he would rather watch football games on Sundays than go to family dinners or anywhere else. I didn't realize he wouldn't want to watch anything but sports on TV. I didn't know that he would want to play or watch basketball, football, baseball, golf every waking moment. I didn't know he would prefer sports to sex. I was gobsmacked. Most everything really. We were only together for 3 months before we got married. It's been 10 years and I can't imagine life without her. For some who don't know, the spouse would usually announce if they are a witch or wizard after marriage. Been with my husband for 9 years total, married for 2, just last week. Found out he doesn't care for bubble wrap. I was shook when I found out. He asked me, why do you think I always gave you the bubble wrap when I had it? Well, it's because I thought you loved me and wanted me to enjoy it more. I feel betrayed. That he likes to spoonerize literally everything. Spoonerism, S-P-O-N-rism, spoonerism, plural noun, spoonerisms. A verbal error in which a speaker accidentally transposes the initial sounds or letters of 2 or more words, often to humorous effect. As in the sentence, you have hissed the mystery lectures. Accidentally spoken instead of the intended sentence, you have missed the history lectures. You're welcome. Her butthole turns into a foghorn every morning. How much I love her. It keeps getting better. You're my wife. You have to. That the whole Mr. Nice Guy, Mr. Sweet, kind, generous, compassionate thing was a mask, an act. a disguise and camouflage in order to lure me in order to possess and control me. Then after we got married the mask came off. I was too naive to recognize the red flags beforehand and fell into the trap. He faked being exactly the type of person that I wanted him to be. It was devastating to discover that the person I fell for never actually existed. Thank goodness I escaped. He was a true horror underneath. He was addicted to porn. I'm so sorry. My dad just had to fire a guy because of this. It was brutal. You'd never think it can get that bad, but it really can. We waited 10 years before we tied the knot. October 1st of this year, I learned that she is even more beautiful than I thought. I still can't believe how lucky I am. Most of her family used to hate me, and her mom even asked her why she settled for me when we were dating. Due to people treating me like that my whole life, I had some really bad depression and anxiety issues. That is, until I met her. Just like a movie, it was love at first sight. We still waited before officially dating, but we were both head over heels in love. She peeled back my emotional armor as easy as pulling the curtains and read me like a book. She says I'm the most wholesome person she has ever met, and that's why she loves me. At the same time, she is the most genuine person I have ever met, and that's why I love her. We've been madly in love with each other since the beginning, and after we got married the most amazing thing happened. Absolutely nothing. We have not changed at all. We both still look at each other the same way and oogle and flirt with each other like we are a couple of teenagers. We're in our 30s. We've always heard that things change when you get married, and it's not for the better. They were so wrong. It all depends on how much effort you put into the relationship. I guarantee you that we will be that old couple wearing the same ugly shirt and holding hands that you sometimes see in the mall. I can only hope that you all find what we have. I'm rooting for you. Be patient. Be honest. Be forgiving.